Welcome back to the second part of our Industrial Tech Quarterly Review on key trends in 2025. Today with probably the topic that filled the headlines in 2025 and can't be missed at any reviews, industrial AI.
Point solutions per se is not the way. You need to develop a solid, well-defined data management foundation, right? And then start developing on top of that AI-driven niche cases, AI-driven use cases, applications, niche, right? Verticalized, right? Point to a specific industrial use case, point to a specific verticalization, vertical market, right? And of course, partner with companies.
Transforming industries.
If you want to understand the impact of AI on your potential exit strategy, or you seek buy-side opportunities to enhance your industrial AI capabilities, reach out and let's discuss. Like always, my contact details are linked to the footnotes of the episode. But for now, let's explore how industrial AI shaped 2025 and how it is expected to do so in the future. Hi, Sebastian. Welcome back to our second part of the Industrial Tech Quarterly. Now the topic that we I think a couple of times addressed also in the first part, it's industrial AI, and I think it's undoubtedly that this topic really made the headlines in 2025, made all the reviews from the conferences, fairs, exhibitions, Hanover Fair, for example. So I think we also don't get around and have to discuss the topic and want to discuss the topic for sure, because like we said in the last part, that's here to stay, right? So we even there might be some things overhyped, like in many technologies, but beyond the hype, I think we all agree the future is within AI and industrial AI, if we talk about industry and industrial processes. So yeah, looking forward to discuss with you on that topic. And maybe if you directly jump in, I know that you are always a lot traveling different conferences, visiting all the fairs. So last year we managed to first time also to meet in person on Hanover Fair. So what is your key takeaways or impressions before we go deeper into the topic from the last year, if you think about industrial AI?
Okay, well, that's a really great topic. Thanks, Tim, for having me again, and looking forward to an exciting discussion for the next hour or so, right? So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, industrial AI, what can we say, right? What can we say around it? I can start saying that it's the huge topic today, in fact, since 2024, I would say, in the industrial software, industrial automation landscape, not just from a vendor or a system integrator side, but also from an end user and an investor side, right? It's the topic. Even though in the previous episode we talked about some trending technologies, some of them are really growth drivers for industrial AI, like data management and industrial edge intelligence. Those markets both rely today on the industrial AI market growth. That's unquestionably right. So let's do a little bit of recap. I mean, and I know that we will dive deeper into it on shortly. But until 2023, and if I have to define, a milestone, was the launch of ChatGPT, right? In late, I think it was 2023, right? Late 2023. That was the milestone that truly disrupted, and I hate this word disrupt because it's kind of a buzzword, but that truly disrupted the industrial automation, industrial software landscape. And what disrupted in different ways, right? And I saw this in the fairs, right? Disrupted first, of course, from a technology standpoint, but most importantly, the reaction of the companies. Honestly, at some point in time in 2023, from my perspective, they didn't know how to react. They knew that they need to have some sort of AI capability, but they were not sure. Probably this is an unpopular opinion, but that was the scenario in 2023. We need to, start, embarking on this AI journey, but the common reality for most of those companies was without a clear strategy, AI strategy. So 2023, 2024, the word was confusion, but confusion from a technology standpoint. I mean, what do we do? What features do we need to add to our stack, to our portfolio, without a clear strategy, right? 2024 was the year of copilots, right? Those assistants, to the operators, to the front-end workers, right? They assisted them. These copilots assisted the operators or the front-end workers in their daily tasks, right? Most importantly, or most, I would say, most importantly on documentation capabilities and recommendations or suggestions based on the search in documents, basically, right?
Yeah,
so 2025, we met at Hannover Messe. At that point in time, there was still a confusion, a huge and massive confusion, but not now around copilots on which type of AI feature do we need to include in our portfolio. It was a confusion around agents, agentic AI, which was the key topic in 2025. Agents, instead of having some sort of assistants that help us in our daily activities, right? From an operational standpoint, you have these agents what are now capable of executing workflows by themselves from a single standpoint or in a coordinating multi-agent generative system way, right? So in 2025, if you attended Hannover Messe, 90+% of the industrial technology vendors were some sort of showcasing some sort of agentic AI capability, which we know that was not the case, right? But that was part of the confusion, right? I guess that the reason for that was that the AI agent concept was not very well embraced by the landscape, particularly for industrial vendors. Of course, that was not the case for every vendor. I remember Siemens at Hannover Messe 2025. The capabilities they show there, the capabilities they showcased around AI. We have the analysts have our own industrial AI private session with them. The fact that they are working on what is called an industrial foundation model. I mean, a large language model in cooperation with Microsoft due to their partnership that is 100% explicitly trained on industrial data. That's a huge differentiator. And that will allow Siemens, to expand their agentic AI capabilities with a strong, solid, foundation. But what we see in 2026, right, there is still confusion out there. I came from, as I told in last episode, right, last part, right, I came from a user conference held in the US where 51 vendors were there. Most of those vendors, which are, the pain points they address are different. Their application, their use cases are different. If you see the messaging, right, around and the go-to-market strategy around their solutions is exactly the same. And you know that that's not the case. You have vendor A, which is really expert, let's put it in that way, in MES capabilities, in advanced planning and scale capabilities. Then you have another vendor B, which is his strength is connectivity, right? And if you listen to them, and if you saw what they were showcasing, it was they were competitors, and that was not the case at all. So the confusion still persists. Probably the reason of the confusion, the source of the confusion was, changing from 2023 to 24, from 24 to 25, from 25 to 26, right? But in spite of this confusion that is out there in the market, now some companies really know what they are doing, have a very clear AI-driven strategy. they understand the value of having a solid data management foundation. And I would say that the winners of this, complex landscape today would be the ones who focuses on niche use cases, specific application, particular applications, and we can talk about vertical AI here as well, if you want.
Yeah.
And also the ones who partner with these huge companies like the hyperscalers, with NVIDIA, right? So confusion is there, but I'm 100% sure about one thing. This is not hype anymore. This is completely disruptive. Industrial AI is here to stay, and it will change and redefine the way manufacturing processes are being executed, the way industrial vendors, industrial software vendors, industrial automation vendors redefine their own strategy, design their solution roadmaps, redefine their partnership strategy. The impact of AI cannot be compared to anything, neither to the cloud disruption, neither to the IoT disruption. It's way bigger than that. It will definitely change the way the industrial software landscape and the industrial automation landscape is operating, right? And one last thing, if I may. Sorry, Tim, I know I'm elaborating too much on this, but
that's fine.
3 years ago, when you talked about Industry 5.0, the definition or the big concept was around these human-centric technologies, sustainable technologies. It was sustainability-centric. Now, the meaning of Industry 5.0, since this milestone moment, this breakthrough moment, the OpenAI launch of ChatGPT, is how we harmonize human capabilities with AI workflows. So it's the AI human synergy rather than the sustainability and human synergy. So that is how powerful this revolution it is today. And again, it is not hype. It is 100% real, and it's here to stay.
Yeah, fully agree. You started already a little bit with reflecting on development steps, right? And I think before we go on talking about the market outlook, what does it mean for the vendor landscape? I think it's worth taking a step back and structuring the discussion a little bit, because if you talk to many people, there's still what you said with confusion, but still a mix of wordings of use cases, right? Like people say, okay, predictive maintenance, predictive quality, these are topics, they are already here for a while. So what is new? You have the whole topic of you read in the moment a lot for software vendors in terms of AI augmentation, right, and enabling capabilities in existing software solutions. And then what you mentioned, like agentic AI, multi-agentic AI, orchestration, and so on. So maybe you can give a little bit of a structure on those topics, right, with some use cases, so that a little bit understanding from your perspective, also talking to those companies, where are we? So what are already established use cases? Because I think we see already a lot of topics. Where are we now? What do you think? What is next? And what is still prediction, right? So where we say, okay, it's great concepts, potentially there in the future, but takes a while. So.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. And this is a really good way of, as you said, of setting some sort of structure to the episode, because if not, we can be here talking for hours. Yeah, it has a lot of different angles, different perspectives. So first of all, let me start with a very basic definition, if you allow me to do so, a very basic definition of what I believe is industrial AI and what distinguishes industrial AI from the broader enterprise AI, because we need to set a clear distinction when we talk about AI in manufacturing environments, right? Basically, industrial AI refers to the application of artificial intelligence technologies. You said you name a few before, right? Machine learning, computer vision, generative AI, and more currently agentic systems, right? To industrial processes, right? Across the whole manufacturing value chain. And it's not just operations, also design and engineering, production, maintenance, quality, supply chain, right? It's the whole manufacturing value chain. And the big difference or the big differentiator between industrial AI from a more broader or general enterprise AI is the operating environment. And with this, I mean, all the constraints that a shop floor has, right? Safety critical system, complex physics, really noisy data, right? And the need to interact, the need of interactions between systems, right, with physical equipment, right? So models that work really well in cloud-native enterprise settings, right, require significant adaptation for the factory floor. And that's the big challenge that today industrial vendors, I would say industrial actors in the manufacturers space have, right? That's in terms of how we could define industrial AI and what distinguishes from enterprise AI. Now, from a historical perspective, as you rightly pointed out, AI has been around since, I would say, 50, 60 years, right? AI as a discipline, AI as a technology discipline, right? But it really started to impact the manufacturing landscape, I would say, in the 90s, right? The first AI version or AI type that impacted the industry was in the 90s, I would say, till 2010, right? Which was the rule-based systems, right? Which basically were systems that operated with fixed if, then, else logics, expert systems, statistical process control. In my previous experience at Honeywell, I was able to witness how those systems work. And at that point in time, also advanced process control. At that point in time, that was some sort of, even though you were not talking about AI explicitly, there was some sort of AI logic behind them, right? So then the 2010s came, and with that, the Industry 4.0 revolution that it started in Germany in 2011, yeah. But I think it got spread all over the world, basically in the 2014, 2015, more or less, that point in time. At that point in time, we started talking about supervised and unsupervised machine learning, models trained on historical data, predictive analytics capabilities. So everything relied around predictive and prescriptive analytics, right? So we have a data set, right? At that point in time, we were not talking about solid industrial data management foundation yet, but that was the big inception of the data lakes, data warehouses, right? So we store the data in one single repository, and then we start doing some sort of prediction and prescription based on ML, machine learning driven analytics, both supervised and unsupervised machine learning, right? Mm-hmm. That was, I would say, till, again, the seminal moment, which was ChatGPT, late 2022, early 2023. That's when generative AI came into play, and that's where the true revolution started. Because after this, I would say, ML, supervised and unsupervised machine learning training capabilities, now we have generative AI, which has it's basically the capability that we have to interact with this large language model, have some sort of natural language processing capabilities, conversational capabilities, right? At that point in time, 2023, the focus was on copilots. We started to see some sort of explicit AI capabilities embedded in industrial software. We started listening more and more about industrial foundation models having this large language model specifically trained with industrial data. And also not just large language models, but also small language models, SLM, which again brings back to this topic of vertical AI being niche, right? Train specific models around particular applications and use cases. That was 2023, 2024. Now the question is, where are we now? We are now in the agentic AI era, right? We are not talking about assistants. I don't want to say chatbot because chatbot it's more, AI general, not just circumscribed to the industrial world, but this type of copilots. Now with Agentic AI, we talk about autonomous workflows that replace or augment human decision capabilities, because AI agents can act, can plan, can learn within, of course, defined boundaries, right? So I would say that today, 2025, 2026 team, today we are in the Agentic AI agent workflow era, right? Typical use cases could be autonomous shift planning, AI-driven work order generation, self-optimizing production scheduling. So, and you can see that it's not about predictive or prescriptive analytical capabilities. It's more like action, right? It's more like action. So, and if I can, look into the future, have some sort of crystal ball, and believe me, it's more and more difficult today, given this, the disruptive capabilities of AI and the speed that all these phenomena is occurring, right? It's hard to make some sort of predictions or to try to foresee the future. But what I can say is that what's next, it's multi-agent generative systems, right? And there are some really very, very, really interesting companies that are pioneering this space, right? And with multi-agent generative systems, I also talked about cross-system orchestration, right? Which is AI agents, a set of AI agents that coordinate multiple systems toward end-to-end objectives. It could be delivery rates, it could be CO2 emissions control, total cost of a certain production line, right? So the idea is for the future is to have a whole set of agents working collaboratively and coordinated, right? So try to be a sort of, kind of summarize. We can elaborate a lot on this, but yeah, rule-based systems, then machine learning driven models for prescriptive and predictive analytics, then of course generative AI copilots, then AI agents, current era, right? And for the future, this multi-agent generative system coordinated environment. That's how I see industrial AI evolving throughout the last 30 years.
Yeah. Great. And if you look, so that would really interest me also from your research work, right, that you are doing. If you look, especially in the agentic AI topic, so how do you see or experience the gap? Meaning, like, who of the companies beyond theory do really have mature solutions in place for that? And on the other side, I think that is the second part of it is, what customers or what type of customers do you already see today implementing those solutions? One thing is to have it, to have the solutions. The other thing is, do we have already the customer maturity starting to implement that? So, and what customers are those? If at all?
That's you brought an essential topic, and let me tell you why. And I should have said this at the beginning of this podcast, right, of this episode. Let's break it down in two parts, right? Let's start with the vendor side of the equation, right? So, which are the vendors that are really the different type of vendors, and which are the vendors that are really leading the pack, right? So, type of vendors. On one side, you have the large automation vendors with AI portfolios. I mean, the traditional incumbents, right? Here, I would like to cite Siemens. For me, Siemens from the incumbents is a leading, absolutely, no question about it, and not just on the operational side of the manufacturing value chain, but across the whole portfolio. Across the whole manufacturing value chain. They are doubling down efforts on design and engineering, right? On CAD and PLM technologies. They are doubling down on MES, offerings. They are doubling down on all that has to do with digital manufacturing, on the life cycle services side of the equation also as well. So Siemens is really pioneering the industrial AI efforts among the incumbents. Also Emerson, I would like to cite them with their boundless automation approach and the AI capabilities they are including, particularly through the acquisition of AspenTech. That's something that we can elaborate on the next episode. Then you have, of course, more from a design and engineering side of the value chain, PTC, Dassault Systems, right, with really interesting moves around the business strategy. We will discuss that later. Right? So you have the traditional incumbent, the traditional large industrial automation or industrial software vendors that are really showing some sort of mature portfolio with AI capabilities and also a mature and well-defined roadmap strategy, right? Then you have the industrial data management. Again, and sorry to cite again here industrial data management, but you have the traditional industrial data management players that were born like industrial data management, data ops players that now have switched into AI companies, like for instance, Cognite with their Atlas AI solution. For instance, Symphony AI Industrial. There are lots of players here, so I don't want to forget about them. But if I have to pick two really or three clear examples of how industrial data management technology companies, evolve into AI-driven companies, I would say Cognite, Symphony AI Industrial, Litmus, for instance, another company. Flow Software, smaller company, US-based company, but again, they are doing amazing things, right? Then you have hyperscalers. Of course, this is the AI, the inception of AI or the explosion of AI in this landscape brought more prominence to the hyperscalers, right? Microsoft, Google Cloud, AWS, and of course NVIDIA. Even though NVIDIA is not a hyperscaler today, NVIDIA is is everywhere. Not just the hyperscalers, but also industrial automation or software vendors are partnering with NVIDIA. That's why their stocks, right? The value of their stocks raised exponentially or grew exponentially, exactly. And then you have a bunch of startups or emerging companies in different domains, right? With proven and already deployed in many installations. Proven AI deployments, like for instance, I don't know, Tulip, right? In the MES and connected frontline worker space. You have we talked about Litmus, we talked about Cognite. We got, for instance, Highbyte, right, from the industrial data management side again, right? Data Hub with MCP now integrations, to build on top of that a lot of AI use cases, or to integrate on top of that a lot of use cases, right? The type of vendors is diverse, right? And probably I'm forgetting a lot of vendors right now. Sorry for that, but I wanted to cite just a couple of clear examples, right? And now let's go to the other side of the equation, and this is very important, and it adds to the confusion, right? I would say that 90% of the manufacturing of manufacturers worldwide, 80 to 90% are small and medium businesses or small medium enterprises, right?
Exactly.
Honestly, if you try to measure or if you try to assess their digital maturity, they are not ready to talk about AI. They need to, they need to work on other things, foundational things, before start talking about AI. They need to digitalize their processes, work processes. They need to work on their infrastructure, right? They need to, build a solid data management foundation before start talking about industrial AI. So which are the end users that are kind of pioneering industrial AI, implementations? Well, the large enterprises, and I would say particularly in the automaker market, right? The automotive market, Also, of course, the more from a processing standpoint, the refining market, the oil and gas refining, the oil and gas downstream market. So those are the type of vendors that today are some sort of pioneering, right? You have Saudi Aramco with their massive industrial AI investments, right? You have BP also there. So as kind of good examples of companies that are, some sort of leading the pack in terms of end user industrial AI implementations, right? So that's at least how try to that's a good way of separate or differentiate the market, right? In terms of which are the different type of AI vendors and which are the end users that are ready to embrace these kind of solutions.
And that brings me to the next question. I mean, if we consider that, right, and we look at growth projections and looking really at the maturity of the majority of end customers in that market. So what is your view on the market? I mean, if you look at industrial SaaS versus industrial AI especially, so how do you see the industrial AI market developing? Also considering like where do we stand today in terms of who is not only willing but able to sufficiently implement those solutions?
Well, that's a very interesting question, Tim. Probably it can be seen from many different angles, right? I mean, you said industrial SaaS, right? Software as a service. Today, there are some. Let's tackle this angle first, or this viewpoint first. You have probably the tradition, this discussion around, is AI eating software as a service, models, right? From a technical standpoint, I would say that today, at the way we are with Agentic AI, I would say that today AI needs the software as a service infrastructure. Let's see what happens in a couple of years from now, when these multi-agent generative systems capabilities are fully developed. For sure, that will cause some sort of disruption again in terms of the as-a-service models and how to monetize the AI consumption and AI usage from a vendor perspective. But today, all the infrastructure that lies behind the software as a service, I mean the cloud data centers and so on, that is necessary today for AI, for implementing AI capabilities, right? I mean, don't forget about Edge and Edge AI that we were discussing that on the last episode, right? Of course, you need AI inference capabilities, AI calculation capabilities at the edge of the production line, right? Close to the machines. But today, the software as a service infrastructure is essential to keep AI workflows, from my perspective, right, on a technical standpoint, to keep AI workflows working on industrial settings. Of course, the large enterprises are the ones who can afford this, right? Who can implement this. When we talk about, again, small, medium businesses, small, medium enterprises, they are not ready yet, even though they rely a lot of, even more, they rely a lot of on-prem. And I'm not saying Edge. Exactly. They rely on on-prem infrastructures, right? A centralized data center, local data center, where they host all their applications, all their systems, right? All their communications between the machines and the sensors and instruments and the system that are on top of them, right? So even though they are not, those. Even more, those type of players, those type of manufacturers are not yet prepared to talk about software as a service, right? So we need to start, bring clarity to the audience, bring clarity to the industry, separate the noise from the signal, as I like to say. From small, medium vendors, even SaaS, software as a service, is sort of, it's premature. It's too premature for them. But for large manufacturers, when someone starts saying, is AI eating software as a service? Is AI eating or cannibalizing, as a service model? models, for me, that time hasn't arrived yet. AI needs the software as a service infrastructure that lies behind it, right? So I don't know if that answers your question, Tim. It's a very broad question, very interesting, but at least those are two different angles where we can tackle or address that question.
Yeah. I mean, what is also interesting behind that, if you look at projected growths or I would say budgets, it goes a little bit also with the commercialization of AI, right? I mean, the question is who in that stack is profitable and will be profitable in the future. But I think one interesting question is, if you compare SaaS to industrial AI applications to agents, one thing is really in terms of the usage, right? If we talk about industrial AI, we probably will switch much more to outcome-based topics, right? Like you already mentioned, saying, okay, we are solving specific problems like shift planning, whatever, where you can really measure concrete outcomes, service levels, and so on. In the discussions you experience, do you see, and I think that is a shift that then needs to come when you look now at recurring revenue models, in the past license models. I think that is a big shift that I think can be expected around that. And my question also is then, do you see from discussing with clients that there also will be a shift on where the budget lies? Because my assumption would be the more I come to outcomes, it will go into OpEx, right? And operational budgets rather than CapEx or IT budgets, like so I think that has also an implication on software companies to whom they sell, and this is also shifting the way they are approaching the market. Then
yeah, that's very interesting, and I completely agree. Right, AI at the end of the day, from my perspective, when agentic AI workflows are fully in production, not just in pilot stages, when it's fully embracing the industry, for sure there will be a shift in the business model in terms of as a service, for instance, outcome-based, right? In fact, there are some companies in the traditional predictive maintenance space which have included or embedded AI capabilities, agentic AI capabilities in their solutions that are now commercializing their solution as outcome-based models, with outcome-based models. So I think you nailed it, Tim. You hit the point. When the time comes, and the time is approaching quickly, the as a service, right, model will switch more to an outcome-based. No question about it. Absolutely. It's not that clear. It's not that clear yet. I see confusion in the market, not just with the technology as I saw 2-3 years ago, but also with their AI strategy. And I also agree that as soon as it becomes more and more developed, the industrial AI, agentic AI implementation, I would say, the budget will rely more on the operational side of the business rather than the enterprise side of the business, right? And there is a whole question around if the chief information officer role will still be relevant in the future, right? And will not be either replaced by a chief AI officer role, or even being kind of cannibalized, if the term applies, by the chief operating officer, right? Who will be the right persona to target when trying to sell an industrial AI solution, an industrial AI platform? That is a very important concept here. You need to have, in terms of how to sell, right, and how to define your roadmap, your product roadmap, solution roadmap strategy. You need to buy platforms. Point solutions per se is not the way. You need to develop a solid, defined data management foundation, right? And then start developing on top of that AI-driven niche cases, AI-driven use cases, applications, niche, right? Verticalized, right? Point to a specific industrial use case, point to a specific verticalization, vertical market, right? And of course, partner with companies. So those will be the winners, and for sure those trends will, no question about it, will definitely impact the way these solutions are being commercialized, right? So outcome-based for sure is a business model that will dominate in the future, right? But we are not there yet. I think this will happen once again. The next phase, which is the orchestration, the full orchestration of the AI workflow will happen, right?
Yeah, and you already started touching on that. So if I look at 2025, because I mean, beyond the press, right, and the headlines, and you mentioned already a lot of topics. I think there is really a next step, a foundation, where you say beyond any hype that is with new technologies, there is really fundamental transformation coming to the industrial software market. And I think what already brought out 2025 and also the starting of 2026 is very clear profiles on at least specific market areas or how key players position. So if I look, for example, at the large automation vendors, right, they start to stack their claims. And I think there is always some discussions around who will take it or who will be the big winner. But I think this is a thinking that is coming a lot from the enterprise software market. And I think, and maybe you can then comment on that, but that's my observation if I look at the last year. I think that doesn't apply to the industrial software market and also to the industrial AI market. I don't think there is this overall winner takes all approach. It's not possible, because if you look, for example, at the large automation vendors, I think there are a lot of different and also complementary strategies come out. I mean, I think you have with Siemens, you already mentioned that, the industrial foundation model approach together with Microsoft, but there is also, and I think it's the most holistic approach that you currently can see in the market, right? But it's still also, I would say, basically around discrete manufacturing. You have, for example, Schneider Electric with their strategy building on their energy core business, right? Rockwell, a lot of around the factory automation. ABB also around energy, I would say. Amazon more towards process industry approach, and then you already mentioned also like with PTC or Dassault, focusing on their, let's say, functional claim with engineering and product lifecycle management. So I think there is a lot of complementary approaches, and at the end, maybe there will be a lot of models or platforms built around verticals, right?
Absolutely. So that's a trend that we are seeing for the industrial AI market team. Absolutely. Being niche, vertical AI, partner ecosystem, those are the key words, I would say, or strong words that will define the upcoming, are defining right now, that will continue to define the industrial AI, the AI market. And one thing, you mentioned enterprise, right? One thing that I like to point out here is, it's interesting how, when talking to some vendors of the industrial AI landscape, it's interesting how they say that, especially the most recognized ones, that when they are participating in a bidding process, I would say, for a large manufacturer, how they see themselves competing with traditional enterprise AI companies, like, for instance, Palantir, right? Palantir, over the last years, have become the enterprise AI company for excellence, I would say. And it's a matter of, it's an interesting fact that some vendors competing with these enterprise AI agents for industrial use cases, right? So there's some sort of I wouldn't say confusion is the word here, but it's interesting to see enterprise AI players going down to the shop floor, and also competing in that space. However, having said that, I think the shop floor or the traditional OT space will belong to the incumbents, industrial automation vendors, the new industrial software vendors that are, I would say, leading the charge in terms of innovation. When you talked about design and engineering, the PTCs and the Dassault Systems of the world. So being niche in the OT space, being vertical, and again, the different partnerships and collaborations, right? Those are the three key topics.
And I think, and to complement that, I mean, if you, and we discussed about that also in a recent conversation. If you look at what's happening since especially beginning 2026 with the stock market development of software companies and all the discussions, right? What you already addressed, is AI eating software, SaaS. I think especially what you said applies also to all the mid-sized software vendors, and especially if I take the look from the German vendor market, right? I mean, there is a lot of, we touched this already, a lot of vendors founded in the 90s, still on-premise solutions, where you even are not at the point discussing whether they have any AI augmentation or even agent models, but transitioning to SaaS-based models. But nevertheless, and I think beyond all that dust and discussions, and partly I would also say hysterics, right? About those companies still, and sometimes like overstressing something worth, right? And it is especially around that there is, one shouldn't underestimate this value of being, for example, 20 years in a market, having especially this domain knowledge, right, on either verticals or processes, or the proprietary data that you can't collect via large language models, right? So that's also one of the things why Siemens is developing their industrial foundation model, right? And vertical know-how. You have a lot of companies that are in highly regulated processes where it's not that easy to replace something, whether via AI, right? I think about medical markets, pharmaceutical industry, and so on. So I think I'm not neglecting the AI topic. Don't get me wrong, but what I think, looking at it from a positive way, there is a new market, but I see also for traditional mid-sized companies chances to grow in that areas. The question is whether they can do it alone or with an investor or whatever, right? But from a starting point, I see a lot of value in those companies that can be transferred into the AI age. I don't know what's your opinion on that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, of course, I agree 100%, Tim. I mean, for those kind of companies, right? First of all, I mean, there's some sort of a dilemma here, right? It's either you modernize aggressively or find a partner or an acquirer, right, who can accelerate that transformation. But for sure, if you are able to accelerate that transformation, either whether it is partnering with or being acquired, right, or as you said, modernize aggressively, taking your own risks. There are massive transformations, massive opportunities, and particularly, as you said, in those highly regulated environments like life sciences, right, medtech or pharma, and even also in food and beverage industries as well. There are huge opportunities, and that not happens just also in Germany. I think across Europe and also the US. We are seeing those kind of opportunities to these kind of companies, right? But yeah, absolutely, I agree with that, team. I mean, if they move smart, if they make smart moves, they won't be kind of facing some sort of declining relevance or importance, right? There's a huge opportunity for them also to, I would say, to modernize and then to exploit or to leverage their niche or vertical domain know-how, right?
Yeah. So I think to summarize, I think yes, AI. I think we fully agree. Beyond everything we said is not a hype. I think that's a reality, and also I think a big future opportunity, especially in the manufacturing environment. And I think there is, beyond everything said, there are good chances also for established players. The question is really how they finance also this transition. And I think, and that brings us already to the next topic, right? So I think M&A in the industrial tech space will play an even more important role than it did in the past. And also, I think partnerships and participating in ecosystems. So this is something maybe also newer, put it that way, for smaller vendors, for automation vendors. But I think this is part of the reality going forward, that you have to think in partner systems and have to think about M&A, right? Be it on a sell side or on a buy side. Somehow you have to position yourself in this sphere.
And that is something that is happening a lot in the market, Tim. Regardless the sub-segment within the manufacturing value chain, I mean, there's a lot of movement around mergers and acquisitions. I would say post-pandemic, it's amazing the number of transactions or deals that happened and are happening right now and will continue to happen. So definitely, absolutely, that will be a really interesting topic to discuss in the next part or episode.
Exactly. That brings us then to part 2. So, Sebastian, talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Thank you so much, Tim.
Thank you very much.
Great discussion. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Transforming industries.